Alright, welcome back to the channel. Warhammer Man back in the studio with this week's pre-orders, and they are live. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe for Warhammer 40,000, Kill Team, Necromunda, Age of Sigmar, and warcry content as well. So we've got the second round of Aeldari live in the web store, and a couple other items as well. We went through and did our pre-order pricing in advance, and once again, everything looks to be right online. So we see the Combat Patrol Aeldari. For whatever reason, Games Workshop web store is having an issue with the picture. But we know that is a Farseer, a Wraithlord, 6 Windriders, 10 of the new Guardians, and it's $150 for that one. Then we have the brand new Avatar with multiple weapon and head options available, coming in at a very nice competitive price as far as Games Workshop miniatures goes, for $100. Honestly, I was expecting him to come in much closer in price to like the like demon models, basically. Maybe not quite as eccentric as Be'lakor with his big old wings and everything, but definitely more in line with like a greater demon. So to see him at $100, I thought was very competitive pricing for Games Workshop miniatures. Next, we see the Rangers, 5 of those, and the statue at $60. We see the Autarch at $38 with a bunch of options, and with the new revised Autarch data sheet, you can now combine this Autarch and any of the options that come in the kit with the old Autarch and any of those options. So now you can swap out warp generators or swooping hawk wings, mana blasters, banshee mask. Basically any of the options from the old one can be on the new one or mixed in, and vice versa. And then we also see our new Shining Spear jet bikes. 3 of those for $60. The Shroud Runners, the sniper jet bikes, at $65 for 3 of those. And then, of course, we have the Mission Pack Tempest of War for $33. Assassinorum Kingmaker hardback for $27. Cool cover on that one, definitely like that. And then we see Urdesh, the Serpent and the Saint, paperback for $16. And then Dark Imperium, paperback for $16. Kadashin Devil, $16. We're actually getting into last week's pre-orders, or now like the newly available models as well. So we see the Infernal Master, $38. Castellan Carl, $45, which is clearly going to be the new pricing for unique characters. So if someone is a 1 per army type character and they're roughly, MEQ or like human sized, or should I say Space Marine sized, probably going to be $45, as we saw with the Phoenix Lords. And then we also have the new Combat Patrol Thousand Suns and Combat Patrol Grey Knights available as well. So everything right in line with what we expected. I did order an avatar for myself, so I will be painting up, magnetizing, and going through that. So make sure you stay tuned for that video. And then also a Combat Patrol Aeldari. Like the overall composition of it. There's an argument to be made that they could have done a little bit different with it, but I like what's in there. Pretty useful overall, so definitely looking forward to that. And then I already picked up Eldritch Omens, so I have a lot of these models as well. And then we'll see. I haven't decided if I'm going to be using Shining Spears yet, or which Aspect Warriors I will have in my army, but honestly, most of the armies I have seen, I was kind of leaning towards Beltan and kind of heavy on the Aspect Warriors. But to tell you the truth, I may shift it a little bit and do Altway. I really like the dark paint jobs for Altway, and most of my paint jobs have been more light as of late, so I think it would kind of mix it up and contrast well. And then also, I'm a huge fan of Eldrad Ulthrin, so being able to use him would be pretty cool as well. So I'm tempted to kind of go that route and go with the Altway, and then just go kind of like a heavy Guardian army. Now they don't get a ton of bonuses, but overall pretty cool. They have some nice Altway like traits and everything, so I think that would be cool and fun. So I'm probably going to go that route. Man, Games Workshop website is just forever struggling. Like, if you try to do more than one thing ever, it seems like it has difficulties. So, and then if we just kind of look at the new release stuff and just kind of get an idea as to, is there still massive amounts of demand for stuff? Are things selling out left and right? Do you have to run out and get it right away? Is it going to be gone? We see that the Sigmar collections for Fire Slayers and Idoneth are still available. We see the old Foes bundles, still available, obviously, for Khorne and Slaanesh as well. And then we see Combat Patrol Thousand Suns, Kill Team Nakmoon, the Aeldari Combat Patrol, Grey Knight Combat Patrol. We see Kill Team, Killzone Chalnath still available and will be probably for some time. We've got the Avatar. We've got the limited edition Battle Tome for the Idoneth and Fire Slayers, not going anywhere. Typically, these Battle Tomes will be one of the first things to sell out. So, obviously, Sigmar are not nearly as popular. And then also, I think Idoneth and Fire Slayers are probably two of the least popular factions in Sigmar. And then we see all the new stuff. The Kill Team Novitiates here. We've got the Dark Reapers that were recently released. And then, obviously, all of our regular codexes and Battle Tomes. The Storm and Defender Guardians, $55 Warlocks, the Pathfinders, all the Wood Elf stuff still available for Blood Bowl. Somebody actually pointed out in the comments as well, and this may be a mistake or a difference or whatever, but apparently the Blood Bowl teams, and this is from someone that plays Blood Bowl regularly, not me, someone else had pointed this out to me, they had announced that Blood Bowl stuff was probably going to be going up by 20%. And he told me that none of the Blood Bowl stuff increased in price. So I'm not sure about like the dugouts, but I think he was referring to the teams. So it looks like the teams didn't actually go up in price. So rather than raising all of the Blood Bowl stuff a ton, they just raised everything else probably a little bit more, which makes sense because they're selling a lot more of everything else than Blood Bowl. Let's be real. So we see the U.S. Opoly, Warhammer 40,000 Risk still available, Castle and Crow. Here's the Mogg and Raw, very cool model. I know there's some controversy on that one. All the dice still here. Idoneth and Aeldari dice. Very similar. We've got the Kill Team dice for the Legionnaires, the Fire Slayer dice, the Kill Team dice for the Foids Guard, and then Yvraine individually offered for the first time. So she's at 38, and she's a unique character, so she's slightly less. She's more in line with just the regular characters. And then we've got the War Scroll cards, Fire Slayers and Idoneth, the Blood Bowl cards for the Wood Elves, all the recent books still available, and the card game, Cubicle 7 Warhammer Fantasy card game, all that stuff still available, the Blood Bowl Wood Elf dice. So it looks like we're at the point now where unless something is specifically limited edition, it's not going to be selling out. I did notice that they pulled down Eldritch Omens, so that is no longer available. So hopefully some people took advantage of that if they were considering buying some of those units separately. I went through and did the breakdown and showed with the retail prices how good of a deal that actually was. Now granted, it was much more expensive than the previous boxes has been, and if you compare it to some other game or Plastic Army Men at the dollar store, of course it's very much more expensive. But when I compare these things, I'm comparing them strictly to Games Workshop products, buying them models individually versus buying them in the set. I did get this White Dwarf 474. I haven't cracked it open yet, but it comes in a like big heavy sleeve, and it is loaded up with stuff. There's like, I believe it was like, there's going to be 2 pictures in it, like 2 big poster-sized pictures staying up on your wall. There's a ton of cards and a bunch of other good stuff as well as the Harlequin rules, the bespoke team for Kill Team. So I will do an opening of that and just kind of go through it and show off what's in there. So look out for that video. We do see the Incarn and Visarch, which were now available for the first time individually. Both sold out, at least temporarily for now. And then obviously we saw the Wanderers of the Stars Special Edition Aeldari, Codex Aeldari, both sold out. The Ahriman box set sold out. And then the Ravener Rogue Special Edition. So again, all the Special Edition stuff, or I should say all the sold out stuff, Special Edition stuff. But overall, you know, the FOMO into Games Workshop is over as far as I'm concerned. You know, supply chains are starting to let up a little bit. The price increases are going to slow down demand a little bit. You know, kind of calming things down. So now that we've kind of looked over that, I do want to talk a little bit about Adepticon. So we saw all the new Adepticon previews and everything. Some exciting models to come. Very, very excited to see some of those. And now we obviously know it is Saturday when I'm filming this. So we obviously know how the armies have done. We have gotten basically to, you know, the end of the road. I watched quite a few of the games streamed live. So if you haven't ever checked those out, there's a guy who does some pretty cool streams. I cannot think of his name off the top of my head. I want to say it's like Wargames Live or something like that. But he does like some really nice streams. So he was able to provide some of those videos for us. Very, very cool. But what we saw was a transition from what we had previously seen. You know, there was a lot of fuss about the Tau and how good they were. a lot of fuss about some of the other codexes, Custodes, for instance, that have recently come out. And the truth is, you know, the Harlequins codex was, well, the Aeldari codex was just next level, but the Harlequins are just absolutely amazing. It looks like the light Harlequins, you know, not letting things hit them on less than a 3 with a -1 to hit, and then the ability to, you know, if you're more than 12 inches away, you're -1 to hit them. And then they have ability that subtracts 6 inches from your range of your weapon in like a bubble from one of the characters. So now, if he's in a bubble with a bunch of like their boats, their transports in that bubble also, now it's, instead of being within 6 inches or within 12 inches, it's within 6. So now if you're not within 6 inches of them, you're -1 to hit, and then any natural reroll of less than 4 misses. And then on top of that, they have a bubble that allows you not to reroll to hit them. So essentially making it 50% of your shots automatically miss with no rerolls if you're more than 6 inches away. So pretty stackable abilities, obviously, very cool. And now we're seeing a similar issue that we have with the orcs, but exponentially worse. You can tell what's good because it's sold out on the web store. So now I'm looking at just the Aeldari stuff right here. All the tanks are back in stock, which is cool. These were like all sold out for a little bit there. They're back. The Banshees are back. The regular Harlequin troops are back. But now we see... We'll talk about the Aspect Warriors briefly. And then we'll talk about the Harlequins and the lists and who's doing well at Adepticon. Because, spoiler alert, the top 2 tables, you know, going into the semifinals, it was a Harlequin match, almost the exact same army against each other, you know, basically mirror match. And then the other one was Tau versus Harlequins, and the Harlequins won both those matches. So final table, Harlequins. So, you know, what does that tell you? Well, they're probably slightly too strong, or there's something that needs to change with the list composition, etc. So that being said, we see that Swooping Hawks are out of stock. They are very good. Striking Scorpions out of stock. Again, you know, very good. Support weapons out of stock. Very good, and that's a new model kit. So those are probably just sold out because they're really good. As where these may be gone because we're getting new models. Now that's just complete speculation, but we'll see. We also see that the old Phoenix Lords are sold out as well. So Asherman and Karandras and Bahareth, I believe, are all sold out, and they're all listed at 29. We know when they get their new models, they're probably going up to 45, just like, you know, Jane Czar and, you know, Morgan Ra, etc. So we see Prince Uriel out, Elic Nightspear out. These are all kind of older models, so maybe they're just sold out. I doubt if they're getting new models necessarily for all these, but I think that at least the Aspect Warriors probably will. The old Autarch, still listed as 29, temporarily out of stock. I don't know if they're going to bump up his price to match the new Autarch, or if he'll just be the cheaper Autarch. I honestly don't know. Here we see Bahareth and Fugan, both sold out again. They're at 32 instead of 29, so they are slightly more expensive, a little more bigger, elaborate models. And then we see Vipers, Autarch Skyrunners sold out. Obviously, the Fire Dragons at 45, the Warp Spiders at 45. Hopefully, we're getting new models for all those Phoenix Lords, or all those Aspect Warriors. Webway Gate was back for a short time and sold out again. Obviously, very popular, and you really can squeeze it in pretty well on a lot of the table setups. And then we see Fire Prism and Night Spinner. That's your, obviously, like, more elaborate tanks, your artillery and your, like, heavy hitter. They're still sold out. And then now we're down to the actual Harlequins. So Shadowseer, been sold out for a while, very powerful. But let's be real, most armies are using one Shadowseer. So it's not going to take much to fill the demand on the Shadowseers. But as far as the boats are concerned, this is a single kit, the starweaver and voidweaver kit. And most of those top Harlequins lists are using, right off the bat, you know, one of these is basically, they're both transports, but one is a like gunboat and the with transport abilities, and the other is like classified as an actual transport. So one is a heavy support choice, one is actual transports, and then the heavy support choice is taken in squadrons of 3. So we're looking at 9 of these in 3 squadrons. So what's happening is they're taking their heavy support choices and taking 3 squadrons of 3. So that's 9 of these boats right off the bat, and then they're squeezing in, you know, like 5 troops of like 5 models, sometimes one larger one, a couple of characters like a Death Jester, Solitaire, Troop Master, etc., and then filling out the rest of the list basically with the other boats, with the actual transport boats. So when it's all said and done, most of these lists have, roughly like 14 of these boats in them. So they have 14 of the same kit in the army. So this is an interesting issue. It's the same thing that we saw exactly with like the buggies and stuff like that. Previously, you could take 3 selections of any one buggy, and then you could take the buggies in squads of 1 to 3. And we saw a lot of people taking like 3 squads of 1 buggy or 3 squads of 2 buggy, etc. It never got really to the point where somebody was taking like 9 shock jump dragsters, like 3 squads of 3 or squadrons of 3. With these, we are seeing that. So one of 2 things is going to happen. We know that for sure. We know for sure that they're going to do either the same thing they did to the orcs, where you can only take that selection once, or they're going to raise the points to make it so that you can't take as many or they're less appealing. So because some of them are transports, like the actual transport, like not just to carry guys, but like selected in your army as transports, by nerfing the gunboats slightly, people are still going to take a bunch of the transports, so it's not going to fix the problem as much. I mean, it will help, but people will just transfer into the transports. Their army will be not quite as good, but essentially still the same. I think they're probably going to do both. I think they're going to raise the price on the starweavers and the voidweavers. And then I think, like in points terms, and then I think they're probably going to also restrict to where you can only take 3 single models or 3 in a unit, but not multiple selections. That is my guess. We'll have to wait and see. But typically, as far as balance and everything goes, if you have 3 out of the 4 armies, coming out of the gate and all being almost exactly the same list, probably not going to last for long. Definitely going to get hit with the nerf bat, in my opinion. So we'll see how it goes. But, essentially, it is... Let me look at this really quick. The Voidweaver is a mobile gun platform armed with 2 shuriken cannons. 1 is underslung, and then obviously it can transport. The Starweaver is armed with 2 shuriken cannons and 3 banks of mirage launchers. And then... Yeah, okay. So it's the exact same one. Obviously, I always mix up the names between them, but the one that can take this gun is obviously the one that everyone is fawning over. They do like a bunch of mortal wounds. They have a dispersed shot and a regular shot. So like you can have like one heavy hitter gun, or it can shoot a bunch of shots with the weaker profile. I don't actually have my codex right in front of me, or I would tell you all this stuff. But this is the actual transport version. Very cool kit. And like overall, the Harlequins are good. They just have so many abilities that stack on top of each other, and then invulnerable saves, and then a ton of Luck of the Laughing God, like reroll dice, that it's just making it so they're very resilient. And then as the game progresses, most armies get weaker as the game progresses because they have less damage output. The problem with the Harlequins is you still have a bunch of extra rerolls. So even if you use up your command points, every turn you're still getting an auto, let's say roughly 5, 6, basically. I shouldn't say auto, because there is a chance you don't get your extra ones. You're getting an automatic 4 rerolls, because you get 3 rerolls right off the bat every turn that you can use. And then on top of that, you can roll up to, 6 dice. And if you get any doubles, you don't get any of those 6 dice. If you don't get any doubles on however many dice you choose to roll, those are extra rerolls for the Luck of the Laughing God. So if you choose to roll 3 extra dice at the beginning of the battle round, and you don't get any doubles, you now have your regular 3 rerolls for the Luck of the Laughing God, plus 3 more. So now you have 6 rerolls you can use throughout your turn to basically keep your stuff alive or ensure damage, etc. On top of all your command point rerolls, and there's no restriction to, you can reroll less things with them. Like it's like saves, attacks, wounds, stuff like that. Not a ton of extra stuff, but what they're useful for is keeping your stuff alive. So they're very, very strong. They're going to have to make changes, obviously, to them. It's just a matter of time. So in the meantime, I would say it's a good thing that these are completely sold out, because people are going to like FOMO into them a little bit less. Because normally what we would see is, if they had like thousands and thousands of these in stock, we would see tons and tons of people rush out and buy 12 of these boats, or however many you need to build, this top tier competitive army. and then they would probably never even get around to like building them, or maybe they would rush out and build them, and then it gets nerfed, and all of a sudden you can only take 8 of them, and then all the extras like flood the market, and then all of a sudden the army's not that great anymore, and people are salty. Look, let's be real. If you're not a super competitive player, rushing out and playing in these like super large tournaments, very competitive tournaments right off the gate, you have basically no reason to rush out and FOMO into these until you see what the nerfs end up being. Because what happens with these is there's basically a window when the codex first comes out, and a lot of times the play testers are best able to take care of this window because they have seen the codex in advance and know what's going to be good and work out some of the broken combos. Those people basically have a window where they can just dominate the scene for a couple months. And keep in mind, these are already the best players in the world. So then on top of that, they're taking like the best lists or like broken lists, etc. So then they have an advantage where they saw everything ahead of time. They can set up ahead of time. They can go out. They can play in these tournaments. They can win, continue to make a name for themselves. And then by the time the list nerf comes in, there's a new codex on the way, whether it's Tyranids or Knights or whatever, and they're already working on the next one. So in my opinion, when a new codex comes out, it's cool to theorycraft, it's fun, everything's exciting, but the truth is, it's not always worth it to rush straight out, try to get this broken army and abuse the system, because in the end what's going to happen is you're probably going to get nerfed and not be able to use some of those units, or the units just aren't going to be that great. Are Harlequins always going to be good no matter what happens with the nerfs? I think they will. I think Harlequins are going to be very fun and very competitive and a super good army. Maybe not as fun for your opponent because they're going to be tough, but I do expect them to get toned down a little bit. So in my opinion, the best thing to do, kind of wait, see what happens. Obviously these are all sold out, so people aren't FOMOing into them. But the truth is, you can actually build this Harlequin army pretty cheap. I mean, it's not crazy expensive. I think your typical 40k army is coming in right around $1,000. So sometimes with the Forge World and stuff that you need to build these super competitive armies, it can go well over that. Not so much with the Harlequins. I mean, if you're buying basically 10 of these boats right here, it's $420 retail. So that's it's, obviously for 10 kits, $420. And then that's like basically all your transports for the army. And then on top of that, man, their site is just terrible since they upgraded it. It's just an absolute atrocity. So then after that, you basically have, you're going to need a couple more than that. So maybe another 80 on top of that. So you're talking about like $500 in gunboats. Then you're going to need like 5 squads of Harlequins. That's another $200. So you're talking about, $700. And then you take a couple of characters at $33 a piece. I think you need like 3 of them. So you're talking about like an $800 army. It's not super cheap compared to some things out there, but for a grown man hobby and anybody that's playing Warhammer, like that's not that bad. Toss in a codex, some dice, and some cards, and you're under the average army. So when it's all said and done, do I think that the Harlequins are going to get nerfed and we're going to see some of these toned down a little bit, some points changes, and maybe like some clarification on some of the abilities or toning down of some of the stacking? Yes, I do. So I don't think it's a good idea to just rush straight out and overpay some crazy amount to get a hold of these gunboats that are probably going to see some serious nerfs into the future. And in my opinion, I think it's very likely that we see both those nerfs go into effect. I think we're going to see points changes, points increases on the gunboats, and then I think also we're actually going to be seeing the same buggy rule go into effect. I don't know why they didn't change that rule for everyone. I would think that would just be a general rule. If you're going to change the flyer rules where it's like 1, 2, 3 restricted on game size, I would think that they would do the same thing for like units of buggies. And who knows? I mean, the Carnifex corner is right around the Codex is right around the corner. I don't know that it's going to be an issue. We'll have to see. But there's some spam options in that as well. And the support weapons is another one. People can easily take 3 of these support weapons, either D cannons or the other options for them. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But you could take 3 units of 3 of these, and you have 9 like support weapon, like spam out of line of sight units. We see it with the bodyguards and the crisis suits. I mean, the spam in this game in the competitive scene is definitely like top level. But as far as like the units of like multiples, that's where we really see a problem. So the way they toned down the buggies was they made it so most people were taking 3 of like each buggy, but as individual choices or whatever, or 3 of a lot of buggies. Now they made it so you can only take 1 selection of that buggy with 3 in the unit. So you can't take a bunch of different units of those buggies. So I think that's really what they have to do here. So you can still take 3 of the boats, but you can't take 9. You can still take 3 of the artillery, but you can't take 9. I think the problem is when you get into these squadrons and then people take maximum choices in their army selection, like maximum data sheets, and then they take them in squadrons that are maxed out as well, you end up with 9 of a unit when really you should only ever be able to have 3 in your army. If we're going to do, a limited data sheet rule, which has been in effect for some time now. So in my opinion, that's what they have to do. Let me know what you think down below. Once we see the lists and everything fully printed out, I've seen them already. I basically give you the breakdown, but I will go through, do a breakdown the same way we did after like LVO, kind of talk about the list, some of the strategies, how well they did, some of the changes that we expect to be made, etc. So keep your eyes out for that one. But that is it for this week's pre-orders. Obviously, Aeldari doing very well. We'll look out into the future and see, is there going to be Screamer Killer spam where all of a sudden people are running like 3 broods of 3 Screamer Killers and you have 9 Carnifexes just charging down your throat at like 10 plus movement and, 10 plus attacks? Are we going to see, Zoanthrope spam where people are taking 6, 3 units of 6 Zoanthropes and just like pouring multiple wounds on you? I don't know. We'll have to see. I think it's less likely with those ones. Although they are good. So, but that's it for today. Let me know what you think down below. Appreciate all the positivity and feedback as always. If I said something wrong, feel free to leave some corrections down below. But of course, do it in a respectful way. Always appreciate feedback from you guys as well. But that is it for today. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man. If you enjoyed the Warhammer 40,000, Kill Team Necromunda, Age of Sigmar, warcry content, and even a little bit of Horus Heresy and Underworlds as well, make sure to like and subscribe. Share it with your friends. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and I'm out of here.